Well, a little bit of housekeeping as we're diving in here. We do recommend Chrome or Safari. If you have any trouble hearing me, hearing videos that I play, just hopping back in Chrome or Safari tends to resolve a lot of the issues. But we also have Irma here from FluentPet and Calvin here from FluentPet as well, who can help you out. So Irma is our wonderful community coordinator, and Calvin is our guide community coordinator. So we always are thrilled to have them, and they have a ton of experience with Bootcamp and helping y'all out. Awesome, and I see your intros coming through. Let me see if, of course, Bernie leaves off camera there, but one of my cats was active behind me. So my name is Morgan Krug. I'm a certified dog behavior consultant. I've been working with animals professionally for going on 18 years now. I'm best known for teaching my blind cat Jasper to use the buttons, who's pictured here. But my current learners are a border collie named Adora. She got her start 4.5 years ago with Jasper. I've got a little senior mini American Shepherd who doesn't use the buttons a ton, but Ash is around and will use them when he feels compelled to, and he's happy to respond when someone else presses. And then I have my 2 one-year-old cats, Bernie, who is one-eyed, and Katie, who is mostly blind. And they are little button-pressing fiends. They love talking up a storm, so they'll probably give us some live demoing today, depending on what they're in the mood for. All right, and let's see y'all's intros. So Henry, welcome to you, and Coda, 4-month-old Shetland sheepdog pup, love it. I had a Sheltie with me all this past weekend that was staying with me. Joy, welcome to you, and Ella, 9-month-old Min Pin pup, very much in the puppy brain stage. All good. Good to know, though. And Haley, welcome to you. And Maisie, 1.5-year-old toy poodle, starting our learning today. Awesome. Just received the Connect kit. Very, very exciting. And if you have any trouble getting that set up, let us know. We're here to help with that as well. It's not anything too complicated, but there is setup involved. So that's just why I say that. Just know that we're here every step of the way for you all, regardless of what kind of buttons you have. And Zara, welcome to you. And Lily, 8-year-old cat, 4 buttons, uses all a lot, been 6 weeks waiting for our Fluent buttons. Fantastic. Nice. Calvin, great to have you. And Jason, oh my gosh, they're on their 8 months now that they've been with using buttons together. That's fantastic. It somehow feels like longer, especially with how advanced they are as a team communicating. It's so much fun to see. And yes, Adora is very, very chatty with her buttons, but ironically, what I started, expecting, oh, my border collie, she'll be the one who takes over, but maybe my blind cat will be intrigued. She wound up being my deeper communicator, my more intensive communicator. I'll tell this story. I usually tell it in a little bit, but I'll tell it now. After an eye procedure, she was able to request medication for her eyes multiple times with Eyes and Help. And my border collie is happy to use her buttons all the time, but it's much more in her world, like, what can this do for me? Like, how can I make the monkey dance? Whereas, yeah, my blind cat Jasper was much more deep conversations, telling me what she was smelling, what she was observing. It's just so fascinating. They're all unique individuals, and their personalities totally come out with how they use the buttons, what they want to talk about. And so a lot of what we're going to go through today is helping you discover, what their motivations are, what they might want to talk about, and tailoring the board to them as individuals as a result. And so on the agenda today, and I've got a couple more, sorry. Amparo, welcome to you. And Bruna, love it, Border Collies representing. Been using other buttons, and now we're expecting FluentPet, great. And they do tend to transfer from buttons fairly well that we've seen. Sometimes, having a new button shape or the sound, just quality, even going from, one type of FluentPet, like the speak up to the connect, sometimes they can do a little bit of a double take, like that sounds different or that feels different. But usually as long as we're modeling and as long as we're following through with what we're modeling, what we're pressing, and what they're pressing, they tend to get it pretty quickly. Oh my gosh, and your English is fantastic. Please don't apologize. Apologies for my pronunciation of anything too. Well, hi, Bernie. Oh, oh, sorry. Bernie's trying to get, you want your collar all done? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Collar, ouch. Oops. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I look over and Bernie was about to press the ouch button. His behavior looked a little bit weird. I don't know if you can see this itty bitty little loop on the outside of his collar was stuck in one of his teeth while he was trying to go and chew on his collar. Good boy, Bernie. Ouch. Oops. That was an ouch, huh? Now he's just flopping. Flopping on a help, though. Yeah, mom, help Bernie. Mom, help Bernie. Oh my goodness. And we'll dive into things in just a moment. But I wanted to show you Bernie. Yeah, that was mom, help Bernie. Mom, help Bernie. So a little bit of live demoing here. Mom, help Bernie. Hi, you're kind of laying on our. Mom, help Bernie. Bernie had an ouch. You had an ouch and you needed help. Hi, Ash. And this is Ash. And so whenever you see something, a teachable moment like that, obviously I'm not pressing the buttons until I got him comfortable, until I got the collar out from being hooked on his bottom tooth there, that bottom canine. Scoop pets. Bernie wants scoop pets. So yes, he had not actually hit the ouch button, but observing the behavior, just watching, narrating verbally, or trying to press corresponding buttons once it's safe to do so, or once the urgency is passed, even though, you know, it might be safe to press hi, to press a you know, something like a play button and then play with them. If they're urgent, if they've already given you a play bow, if they've brought you their toy, if you then stop, walk over, expect them to press, or go, oh, no, let me press now, that can interrupt the flow. That can interrupt the fun. They've let you know with their body language what it is that they want, what it is they're communicating. That absolutely always still counts. Follow through on that request, and then you can go narrate, or you can be verbally narrating, and then you can go narrate and model with the buttons. Okay, sorry, sidetrack, but was relevant, and again, very teachable moment there. Bernie wanted play. All right, so we're going to dive on in. Thank you so much for riding along with me there as I disappeared and then tried to narrate from afar. So here's little Bernie. I'm going to flip around. Close your eyes if you get motion sick. All right. So a little bit more about us as we're diving in here as a company. So there's handsome Bernie. While Alexander Rossi and Christina Hunger were using buttons previously with their learners, FluentPet is the original button teaching system. So what does that mean? It means that our mission is to figure out how to teach dogs, cats, and the other animals we share this planet with how to talk, or an approximation of it. And we believe that pulling this off will take a village, a community that can develop and share button teaching tips and tricks, and work together to discover the most successful button teaching approaches. So that is where you all come in. Our success in this mission entirely depends on your success with your learners. And the more of us who are able to progress and figure out best methods, the faster we can figure out just how far all this can go. And in case you're wondering, how far can all this go? We think this video really helps paint a picture of what's possible, and you'll probably recognize Alexis and Bunny.
The foundation for getting started with buttons is just a desire to connect. I can't remember the exact order, but I think she pressed stranger mad, and I was like, what does that mean? And then ouch paw. And she came over to me and she put her left paw in my hand, and I was like, okay. And I looked between her toes and she had a foxtail stuck between her toes.
This was the stranger in her paw. She's got a mat between her toes.
And it's not just Bunny who can do these amazing things. I already mentioned my blind cat Jasper, how she was able to alert me. And there's lots of fun examples too. It's not all serious, not all medical. One of my favorite early examples was with Scout, a Catahoula mix, who would repeatedly combine water and bone. Took us a little while to figure out what she wanted, but it was ice cubes. And so she got an ice cube button and was able to advocate for herself in that way. So it really is amazing how creative they can be, even with a limited vocabulary. All right, so how do we begin? How do we start teaching? For those of you who are at the very beginning, I know some of y'all have already had success, but when we're beginning, we want to be talking to them all the time. And honestly, I still talk to them all the time and try to be consistent about the language that you're using with them. That doesn't mean that it has to be one language versus another. You can pick and choose. In fact, you can avoid homonyms really well. Words that sound too similar to each other, like mad and dad, as Calvin had learned. That was too close and it wound up being confusing for Jason. But if you're able to speak multiple languages, maybe you pick and choose different ones. Or I've changed hi and bye to hi and goodbye, for example, in how I narrate and what's on the buttons, just to create a bit more distinction. So these are the sorts of things that you can be paying attention to while you're narrating. And then because modeling is how we teach our learners what these concepts mean, we want to pick buttons early on, especially, that we can say yes to their presses for. We want to capture their excitement, their enthusiasm around the board, and teach them that this is an amazing tool that they now have available to them. And so there's 3 simple steps once the buttons are set up. First, press that button. And again, the faster you can follow through, so immediately, and the more frequently you can follow through, ideally 10 to 15 times a day, the faster they can make those connections. Step 2 is just follow through. So press that button and then follow through. Show them the meaning of the word by making it happen. And then step 3 is repeat. Go back to step 1, repeat, repeat, repeat. Lots of repetition, especially early on, again, while we're helping them understand that the buttons have a consistent outcome each and every time. So what does this actually look like in practice? I have a video for you with Kelly and her learner Delmer. This is the first 24 hours that they had buttons down in their household, just so you can get an idea of the frequency that she's pressing. And know that she is talking to him throughout and following through. It would just be too long of a video if we showed all this. So just pay attention to the frequency of modeling.
Puzzle. Outside. 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 Puzzle. Outside. Pet. Puzzle. Outside. Outside. Pet. Puzzle. Puzzle.
Yes. Puzzle.
Beautiful accidental press right there.
Puzzle. Puzzle.
Accidental
Outside.
presses
Outside.
totally count.
Outside. Puzzle. Outside. Puzzle. Outside. Outside. Outside.
So again, lots of repetition, especially early on. So picking buttons that set you up for success that you can repeat frequently, or at least, a majority of the buttons that you have down to start that you can repeat and follow through easily, that will set you both up for success. And I do have a note at the bottom here too, that learners are all going to take different amounts of time before pressing. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong, that your learner is less intelligent. They're just all individuals, and some are motivated more by, different things. It's sometimes unlocking that motivation, but sometimes it's that they're an older learner with a really well-established repertoire of body language to communicate with, and they already have ways to ask for things. So getting their buy-in with a new system can take a little bit more time. But once they get it, and once they realize that there's specific and precise things that they can communicate. For example, my cat Katie, she loves pumpkin as a meal topper on her food, and it helps ease her upset stomach, I think, sometimes, or just gives her the fiber to be her healthiest self. And so I added a pumpkin button for her, and she loves to ask for that. And that's something that, they can beg for food, but to tell me exactly what it is that she wants mixed in, once they realize that they have that power with the buttons, man, they are typically very, very happy to press. So in addition to modeling throughout the day, trying to pick things that you can, again, say yes to all throughout the day, you can also be practicing rapid modeling. So here's Kelly with a different learner, Nushka, and this is our food modeling challenge that we had back in February, where basically we encourage people to take 30 seconds, 60 seconds, something like a food button, but you can do this with a play button as well, and press it and have whatever they're hearing happen. So in this case, it's a snack button. And notice that Kelly's also pressing snack with the food itself to again really drive home via smell and via action that this button is what is making the snack appear for Nushka. And snack is a good, just kind of general choice so that it, something other than mealtime, since meals we can only model typically a handful of times each day, but something like snack, anytime you're snacking, anytime somebody else is snacking. I use a general eat. I think Calvin, if I recall, also started with a general eat. And similar thing. We'll talk about that on our next slide with choosing first buttons and words. But thinking about something that you can rapidly model, rapidly pair with a button, press and follow through. It can be play. It can be chasing down a treat. Kelly also was rewarding Nushka away from the button so that she would turn back and orient back and look at the button. And that's when Kelly would press it and then the food would appear again. So thinking about things like this can help. And then the other piece is choosing first buttons and words that are, again, setting you and your learner up for success. We want to start with 2 or 3 buttons, more than one to help them understand that different buttons mean different things. And we say 2 to 3 because that tends to be the sweet spot generally for learners, but they're, again, all still individuals. We want more than one, again, to help them realize different buttons have different outcomes, but we don't want to give them so many buttons that they're struggling to differentiate or they're overwhelmed. So that's why 2 or 3 tends to be the sweet spot. But if you started with more and had success, fantastic. I'm not here to tell you you did anything wrong. I'm not here to necessarily even tell you to change something unless something's not working. There's lots of different methods to have success here. And so ideally, our starting button should be motivating and meaningful to your individual learner, easy and convenient for you to model immediately and say yes to, and concrete or actionable. We want to try to avoid starting with abstract concepts because the soundboard itself is an abstract tool that they're learning how to use. So the more concrete, actionable, easy to understand the buttons are to begin with, the more we can build those connections, that strong foundation for using the buttons, and then we can advance and get to abstract concepts pretty soon thereafter once they are doing some independent presses. We'll talk about that more on the next slide or in the next couple slides. So some examples of common starting buttons. And if you are torn between some options or debating, between ones, let us know in the chat. Happy to talk through options with you. Those of you who have already started, I'm curious, what buttons did you begin with? What worked for you and your learners? So typically, folks start with something like play or toy, some kind of activity. It's up to you whether you do a specific toy or general. Again, for the cats, I started with the general play, was able to model it in multiple ways. But for my border collie Adora, we began with ball because ball is life for her. So that was incredibly motivating. And if you start specific, no problem. You can always add the general button. And if you start with a general button, like again, we started with a general eat, we've already broken that down into pumpkin, kibble, wet food, training, puzzle. Puzzle is a way to like a slow feeder to ease getting the food out. Or let me show you one other one here, because I know there's often questions about what does puzzle mean. So here's another one, just like a little puzzle mousey that is stuffed with kibble that they can bat and kind of slowly work their way through. Yeah, so up to you if you start general or specific. And again, you can always, get general if you start specific and vice versa. So I said, I think that's where I screwed up because Lily knows 3 perfectly, but is still unsure on the 4th. She seems to have had it for a while, then lost it again. Interesting. Snack, play, brush, and scratches. Play is her absolute favorite. Brush is a close second. I was thinking of doing food, water, and backyard for Maisie's first buttons. Good to know, Haley. Maisie gets 2 flavors of food. She's spoiled. So eventually I want to have a button for chicken and a button for lamb. Yeah, I love that. That works great. Yeah, and I do encourage going specific if you want to get specific about proteins, getting practicing like that can be really great rather than with I've seen where people have tried like specific cans and stuff like that and like choosing which can or like a different name for each brand. But then the worry is what if, the formula changes or something like that? You don't have to worry about that with specific proteins. You'll have to report back. We've seen a lot of interest and success with that so far, anecdotally. And Haley, one thing to think about, water is sometimes not a super motivating starting button. It might be for Maisie, so she might, totally be the exception. And a lot of cats are the exception in wanting fresh water or to tell you that they want more water or a water fountain refresh or something like that, or to turn a faucet on. But it really depends. A lot of dogs, because we keep their water bowl filled or, they don't need to request it as much. So it's less valuable, less useful of a button, but it's totally up to you. It, it doesn't tend to hurt anything. It just doesn't tend to be an exciting or motivating button for them to want to press. And it's a little bit tougher to press 10 to 15 times a day on average, unless there's somebody who wants you refilling water all the time, turning on a faucet, something like that. And Zara, I am wondering maybe if you continue modeling, if your fourth was scratches, maybe brush is just something that she loves so much more that scratches, she's like, well, why would I use the scratches button when I have a brush? Or maybe practicing a difference between the two, just going back to modeling a little bit more. Just a thought. That's intriguing though. Yeah, and when in doubt, just keep modeling. Yeah, and we usually get questions. I see some typing. We usually get questions about the food buttons. Are they just going to press them all the time? Are they going to become obsessive? And we do find that even the most motivated of learners figure out that we're going to say yes more often than not, and it becomes less valuable of a resource as a result. Because we consistently say yes, they're like, well, why do I need to demand it right now? Think of it as similar to like a slot machine. If you knew that every single time you pulled the slot machine, you'd win a jackpot, if you knew and nobody else was going to come take it, eventually you'd be like, wow, I've got a few million. I really need to eat. I kind of need to hit the bathroom, especially if you knew when you got back, you could just keep getting more jackpots. It would diminish a lot of its value, right? There'd be other things that you'd want to do. So that's the idea behind having the food button. Now, if you've got resource guarders in your household or somebody on a diet, a really restrictive diet, something like that, then a food button might be a challenge to start off with. So it's not the right answer for everybody, but it can be a really great way to build motivation. And a lot of them try to find ways to ask for food anyway. So just giving them an appropriate outlet for it tends to be best for a lot of households. Play and all done were 2 first ones. That was a year ago. Now we have 5 family names. Love it. Play, walk, sleep, train, all done. Yes, outside, now and later. That's fantastic. I love it. Oh, border collie. Sounds like yours. Yeah. I needed a settle similar to your sleep button for Adora to help her calm down and to help her know. It's interesting. Our general best practice, and this is why I always give the caveat that just because it's a general best practice doesn't mean it's the right thing for you. But generally we say try to only add buttons that your learner is motivated to use, that they want to talk about. But I added a settle button because I was like, I need a way to narrate settle to Adora when she's just asking for more ball, more outside, more play, nonstop. It feels like more trading, whatever it is. And so finally I added a settle button because just all done or later weren't quite enough for her. And then she liked to use settle to narrate when she was trying to calm down. Or if she'd see other dogs napping, she'd go over and press settle and then go lay down with them. That's so funny that you have found use for that as well. Yeah, and let me know if there's additional questions that you all have. Haley adds, Maisie likes when the water is fresh, cold from the fridge, so it might work for her. Okay. But maybe I will start with another one before introducing water. Yeah, totally up to you. Again, you know your learner and household best, but just generally speaking. Zara said, Lily keeps hitting snack, but I've realized that she's trying to get a specific snack. I think I need an all done button though, because she won't stop playing ever and I don't know what to do. Let's talk about that. All right, so quick summary. If anybody is just getting started, you're on the fence, dive in. You can always change what button is down. You can always change the location. Just grab 3 buttons, 3 hex tiles, and go. Start off, I try to not put more than 2 hex tiles per button, or excuse me, reverse that. I try not to put more than 2 buttons per hex tile to start off, even for my smaller learners, just so they don't get overwhelmed. But totally up to you how you want to lay things out. All right, so what happens when your learners are requesting a lot, more than you can say yes to? This is a good problem to have, but it can still be a lot. You have to bring home the kibble somehow, right? You've got to go to work, you've got to do other things. So that's where some early abstract concepts can come in handy. But I also want to emphasize, before we dive into the abstract stuff, that the more ways that you can say yes, the more options for them that you can say yes to on the board, the better. We don't want to accidentally frustrate them or shut them down too many times with an all done, no, later, something like that, that they're like, well, what am I even using the board for? So that's where the more ways you can say yes, the better. So maybe a snack button, hearing snack all day. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I can only fulfill a handful of snack requests, or they're asking for a very specific snack that maybe they can only have once a day, like a special bone or something. It may be worth adding a button specifically for that bone. If you know what it is that they're asking for, if you've got more buttons, if you've got the space for it, that might be worthwhile to do to help. It might also be worth adding something like a puzzle button that you can say yes to, and then you can stuff their puzzle or their frozen treat or something like that. Give them that as after the press, and it takes them 20 minutes to work through instead of just pressing it repeatedly. So thinking about more ways to say yes. And then we can also be thinking about our abstract concepts. And as you're narrating, as you're just talking to your learners all the time, start observing what kind of fits in pairs with each other, what sort of goes together in categories, in groups. And particularly things like more and all done, yes and no, now and later, can be really helpful because then you can model them in opposition or in contrast to each other. So when you think about like, yes, more outside now, you're going outside with the yes, with the more, with the now. Yes, more food now. You're giving them more food, right? In contrast, outside all done. No, you can go later. And then nothing happens. That's a lot harder for them to understand, right? As opposed to us taking action with that more, yes, now, that sort of thing. So adding them in pairs, more and all done, yes and no, now and later, that can be really helpful. Even if you wait a little while to add temporal concepts, you can do now, soon, and later together. I know I added household member names all at the same time, similar to what you have described as well with your border collie. So yeah, that was really, really helpful to kind of have, even though it's abstract, I can model my name and actions and activities and then everybody else in the household as well. We can even think about like today versus tomorrow emotions. So thinking about a positive emotion button like happy in contrast to a negative like mad, sad, or frustrated. Yeah, does that help with thinking about these things? Let me know if you have clarifying questions. And we often get questions under abstract concepts to about concepts like help. How do I teach a concept like help? Obviously, the more dramatic times, like where I'm freeing them from something, those are very rare. But if a treat rolls under a piece of furniture and they can't get to it, if a toy does the same thing, mom, help. I'm narrating as I'm assisting. One of my favorite ways to get them comfortable with body handling and help, if you see them digging in, trying to reach an itch and struggling to get it, particularly with their nails in their ear or something like that, or in a delicate spot around their face, and your learner likes being handled by you, mom, help. And then you can go in and give them, gentle massage or ear rub to alleviate their itch and teach them that you can help in other ways too. Yeah, just getting creative about all the different ways you're assisting them. Right. I didn't see questions come through yet, but let us know if there's anything else we can clarify. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about target training as well. If you are modeling consistently and have chosen motivating buttons for your learners, a lot of times they might start mimicking you and try to press on their own, but not always. Sometimes they need a little bit of help connecting the dots, building their confidence, a sense of agency and accuracy, and that's where target training can come in handy. So before I dive into that, I do see a follow-up question. How do I show her emotions like happy? Excellent, excellent question. Anytime I come home, for example, and I see my learners doing their full body wiggles in cats, I've had somebody in Bootcamp actually call it the rattlesnake tail, that shaky, shaky, happy tail when they're excited, labeling happy then. Anytime you're feeling a strong emotion, when you're really happy, when you're feeling love for them, there are studies that show they have the same oxytocin released in their brain when we're staring lovingly into their eyes, that we've got that going on, they've got that going on. So there's probably a physiological response. So labeling that whenever you can, whatever it is, that emotion that you're feeling, that they're feeling, whether that's something like concerned, you can also do something like safe versus concerned. So observing, giving your best approximation, and then it's up to you how in depth you want to get. For me, I just have a general happy and a general mad, but some people will break it down into, again, things like mad versus sad versus frustrated versus concerned. Totally up to you. So being consistent in your narration, identifying how you're feeling, and doing your best approximations and narrating what it is that you're observing in your learners as well. Welcome back. I see a little bit of typing, so I just want to make sure. Okay, awesome. I'm glad that was helpful. All right, so target training. Target training is how, again, we can work on the accuracy of their press and also work on maybe a nose press if that's their style, just developing that accuracy and let them figure out their natural pressing style. You saw Bernie, he's a flopper. He likes to activate the buttons with his shoulders and by rolling. He's pretty accurate overall with them. So I think that's great. Katie's primarily a paw presser, but she's started to lay down a little bit lately. Some will sit on the buttons. Again, some are nose pressers. As long as they aren't frustrated and you can understand them, I say typically let them have at it. But if you really want a wall-mounted board, you can practice a nose touch in particular. Oh, awesome. And Calvin added some fantastic resources, including one that he did with Jason that I love. Thank you for sharing those, Calvin. And so on the tutorials that are listed here, I want to highlight a couple things. The first one with Alexis and Bunny, a great shortcut is just to take the button out of the hex tile, put it in the palm of your hand, and if your learner already has a high five, just cue them to give you a high five. When it says something like play, pull out the toy, engage with them in that way. Same thing, if they have a nose touch, cue them to just go ahead and press it, then follow through. Same with if they have a shake or a paw. You can pull it out of the hex tile, cue them to hit it, and then follow through. It does take time to work it back into the hex tile. It looks different, right? It makes sense that that would be a change, but that tends to, again, help them make the connections really quickly. And if you see them trying to activate a button, the next two are cat specific, but are also great for small learners. If you see them trying to activate a button, tapping at the sides, batting all around, nosing it, smelling it, just staring daggers at the button, why won't you activate? When in doubt, help them out. I don't want them frustrated. I don't want them giving up, walking away. If you can time it and press the button while they are trying to activate it, that can help them make the connection so quickly and kind of capture a press and allow them to start independently pressing quicker. That was how I got my blind cat to press. She was going to knock her empty bowl off the counter. I stuck a button that said hungry at the time underneath of her paw. She pressed that instead. Food immediately appeared and she was like, whoa, that was way easier than knocking everything off the counter. So same thing, if you see them staring at it, wanting to activate it, if you can time it and you press the button while they're attempting to, that can, again, connect those thoughts really effectively. They get the tactile feedback of the button moving, of it lighting up. If it's a connect button, they get to feel it vibrate. If it's a speak up button. So try for that and try to avoid pressing their paw, their elbow, shoulder, head, nose, whatever, because then there's no muscle memory involved and it might be aversive. They might not like being handled close to the board. So to be safe, pressing the button itself to help them out. All right. I've got a couple more resources for you all, and then we can dive in to our Q&A if you have any additional questions. All right, so one of the best resources we have for you is community.fluent.pet, where we are right now for Bootcamp. This is 4.5 years plus now of people's experiences, best practices, research. Highly recommend diving in here. If you are the type that wants step-by-step, in-depth instructions, start button teaching has the detail that you want. FAQs, 41 of these as well under the welcome area. Would love for you to introduce yourselves to, check out the announcements, community events. But I just want to highlight, if you have a question in the middle of the night, you can always ask on the forum, but there's a good chance that it's already at least been partially answered in those 41 FAQs that are here. And then under the button bootcamp section, this is just for folks like you who have attended bootcamp. Under events, this is where you can find upcoming ones. If it would be helpful to attend another, you're always welcome to come back. If you have a household member that wasn't able to make it today that you think would benefit, send them our way. We would love to have them. You can also switch from upcoming to past and find previous boot camps, including today's as soon as we finish up. Under events mentorship calls, this I'm thrilled about that we are having these back. So our mentorship series is with guides who have had success with their buttons, with their learners, and are going to help you all out with your learners too. So we've got Help Me Get Independent Presses. So if you have a learner who will press, if you're right next to the board, if you press to a button, or if you press at a button, or point, there we go. If you point at a button, they'll press, but they won't independently. This can be a great one to attend with Janine, one of our guides. We've got spamming stage. So if you've got somebody who's pressing more than you're able to follow through with, that's 45 minutes of in-depth discussion on that. And you can observe or you can join in, whatever you're comfortable doing. If you want more help picking your first words, more help with target training, cats specifically, modeling, you get the idea. Lots of fantastic options here. And then here's links to things like our learning center, those paw targeting tutorials. Here's a soundboard planning tool that you can plan things out in Canva if you're somebody who likes to have an idea of where things are going. Got more great examples from Calvin with Jason. Jennifer and Phoebe is one of our guides who is also a mentorship instructor. There's Kelly with more info. So great stuff there. Discussion. Again, lots of great questions and info. Chat. If you have a quick update or win, anything you want to share, would love you to update there. One last thing I want to highlight in discussion, show off your soundboard. If you are looking for inspiration, if you want to have an idea, of where things can go. Show off your soundboard is great. Here's a cool like angled wall mount option that Tara came up with. This is kind of similar to our board with the island style, the small groups of hex tiles. If you're looking for a space-saving design, Sasha did a great job with this corner design here. Just know that a lot of our learners like to watch us while they press. They want to know that we're going to react, we're going to respond, and that we're doing so right away. So a lot of them want to be able to watch us unobstructed. So if this were tucked against the wall or pointing too much at the wall, sometimes our learners don't want to press, but there's enough room here for them to get behind the board and stand back here and still press. So thinking about things like that, watching, observing your learner, another wall mount option. And you can even, for our cats, think about nap zones, walking zones. I've got a yoga mat under ours, but you can also do just extra hex tiles. Trying to find, there it is. Ducat's big board. So Ducat is a senior kitty. She does have cancer, so comfort is key for her. So they've got lots of nap zones, so she can basically wake up, stretch, press what she wants, and be as comfortable as possible. So let your board build, grow according to your needs, your learner's needs, all that. All right, got a couple more things I want to share with you all. Hopefully that was helpful. Oh, yes. So the mentorship call, it's not one-on-one. It's a small group. It's free resource, small group. You do need to RSVP, and you just get together. It's up to you if you want to be on camera, if you want to talk through any questions or just listen to how things are going with others, listen to what the instructor or the mentor has to share at the beginning. Totally up to you. And in addition to the free resources that I just shared, we do have the Let's Get Them Pressing course. This starts just after, or just at the end of the month, I want to say, here in May. It's a 4-week class. It's taught by Diane of Neurodog Training and guest taught by Alexis with Bunny. So you'll get to see her at times as well. So much fun. There's live coaching, asynchronous materials. I helped contribute to the cat material. Here's some of the great topics that are covered. And there is 25% off if interested. I can put that code in the chat here. Oh, Calvin's got it. Thank you, Calvin. And then if you are realizing you need more buttons or hex tiles or anything like that, we do have a 15% off coupon code that's good for the next 24 hours. We'll link that in the chat for you as well. That does include Connect, which is less commonly discounted. And then if you have any feedback for us, we are always looking to improve. Would love to hear any feedback. We'll put that link in the chat as well. Thank you, Calvin. Haley had asked, should the Connect base definitely be connected to the board or can it stay plugged in nearby? And Calvin answered, we have ours nearby, but not on the board. Just depends what works best for you. And in case you want to see, same thing. Ours is right here, slightly elevated so that it's out of the way. Some learners, when this is put down, will kind of tap at it or get really close to the speaker and be like, what? This is so different. Totally up to you. It's worked out well for us to just have it right next to the board. And for me, slightly elevated works well to help project the sound in a larger space. Yeah, totally up to you. And I don't keep mine plugged in all the time. I just let it, the app tell me when it needs to be plugged in, but the battery lasts for a couple weeks, even with presses a day sometimes between my 3 very chatty learners that are happy to use their buttons. Awesome. I'm so glad that you already signed up for the spamming mentorship call. Let me see. I was just scrolling back up, making sure I didn't miss anything else. So let me know. Are there follow-up questions that you have? Feel free to raise your hand if it'd be easier to talk through. You're welcome to type as well. If you got all your answers for now, I know this was a lot of information. No worries, no pressure. That's what the mentorship calls are for. You can always come back to Bootcamp. So no worries if you're falling asleep tonight and think like, why didn't I ask that? If you're anything like me, that's totally how my brain works. But you can always send us a message on the forum, look in the FAQs, come to another boot camp, mentorship call, anything like that. All right, y'all. See a little bit of typing, but I am going to start saying goodbyes. If a question comes through, no worries. I'm happy to answer it. But at least for those of you who do, oh, here we go. Sorry, said Lily scratches on the board when she's frustrated when I tell her later or all done. Do you have any recommendations to stop that? Okay, I'm very glad that you asked. And obviously, if anybody needs to run, I totally get it. But this is really helpful, not only for scratching, but sometimes dogs will want to chew at the board, at the buttons, particularly in frustration. So for Lily, try to think about additional buttons that you can say yes to, and try to think about, is there something else maybe? I mean, obviously in this case, it's when you're telling her later or all done. But try to see, are there times when it's happening that she's trying to communicate something else, that she wants something different, because sometimes that's the case. And then adding a button for that can be really useful. But yeah, more things that you can say yes to. I also really like just adding a button for scratch. If she's scratching, add a button for scratch. Same thing if they're chewing, add a button for chew. And then they can press it when they're feeling that urge. You can give them an appropriate outlet. I can show you right here. I've got a just cardboard scratcher that when my one cat is frustrated because I'm telling her outside all done, she'll go over and she'll dig into that instead. And so I'll be able to narrate and press scratch to help. And sometimes I'll put catnip in it when she's requesting scratch to direct her to something appropriate. And then a little semi-field trip here. But you can see our other scratcher right here behind the buttons. That way, again, I've got a really easy redirect. I can narrate scratch. I can press a scratch button, give that appropriate outlet. And again, I do the same thing with chew with my learners. And that's a great one, particularly for those of you who have puppies. Some of them as adolescents might be a little bit out of the chewing, or at least the teething stage, but they're probably still chewers. So give them a button for chew. And then you can get a yak cheese chew, a bully stick, an antler, whatever is safe and approved by your vet, of course, and direct them to that instead. There was a viral video recently of a former boot camp attendee, Radley Barkley, who is a sweet little pitty who pressed or started to want to go for things, started to get really amped and doing kind of her couch surfing all around and making her groany sounds. And she goes over and presses her destroy button. And her mom gives her a cardboard box to shred and destroy. And she tears it up so gleefully and then goes and takes a nap. So thinking about, all right, and she maybe used to be a board destroyer, right? Go in and have a tantrum, tear it all up. So she got a box instead and a button to request an appropriate outlet. So whenever you're observing behavior like that, that's great information to have. I'm so glad you asked this question. This is, I think, helpful, and nobody has left. So that says that this was helpful, hopefully, for everyone. But yeah, absolutely. Redirect to an appropriate outlet. Make it fun. Make it a part of the buttons. Yeah. Awesome, y'all. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate all of your time, your willingness to learn something new, to ask these questions. I can talk about buttons all day, as you are probably figuring out. So we so appreciate you. Thank you from everyone here at FluentPet. And don't be strangers. Normally I would say something like good luck, but you don't need luck. You know your learner in your household best. You've got this. Thanks again, everyone. Bye.